In your control housing, you'll notice that you do have two actual cap tube controls in here, this one being the food compartment control, this one being the freezer control. Your cap tubes from your controls run down, and the food compartment control goes directly into the motorized damper control to control airflow into the food compartment. The cap tube for the freezer control with its sheath goes into a pilot tube as you install it into the back of the product. There's a pilot tube running from the air return duct down into the back of the freezer to allow that cap tube to enter the correct position in the back of the freezer duct. This is the guide tube that guides the cap tube for your freezer control into place. So when you're pushing the cap tube through the opening, you'll have a large opening in this guide tube, and then it just slides right down and properly positions the end of the cold control cap tube. Your defrost timer on early production models will be located in the middle. It's a standard 8-hour timer. Your light socket, of course, is mounted in the back of your control housing. You've got your standoffs located here, 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 at this point, and one back here that hold the control assembly into the top of the food compartment liner. Your motorized damper control can be pushed out and turned over for service. They do have a sticky material here that holds it into place. The control bulb for the food compartment control wraps around the front of the housing. On timer models, you will have 3 switches on the damper control. You'll have 2 at the top, 1 at the bottom. The 2 top ones control your damper motor. The bottom one controls the fan motor. The major change you will see on this is that your food compartment calls for cooling. Your control will close. This will start your damper motor running and start opening the damper. At the same time, it will start the freezer fan motor running immediately. The freezer fan motor will continue to run until the food compartment control is satisfied, at which time the damper motor will come back on and close the dampers. At the time the dampers are closed, the fan motor will shut off unless the freezer compartment control calls for cooling. Your fan motor will also run with your freezer compartment control. In going over the operation of the damper control system on a model that has a standard defrost timer on it, you'll find something that's quite a bit different than what we've used in the past. Now, the 2 switches that I was referring to on the top of your damperized motor control are these 2 switches right here on the wiring diagram, and the bottom switch, which is the one that controls the fan motor, is located right here. This is your food compartment control, and as you can see, it's a single pull, double throw control. Here is your freezer compartment, which is your standard single pull, single throw control. With the damper in the closed position, in other words, the food compartment not calling for cooling, you would be closed between 2 and 3. Your motorized damper switch would have your fan motor connected to your freezer control so that if your freezer control is calling for cooling, you will run your fan motor, and of course you'll send power down into the defrost timer and then to your compressor. If your food compartment would call for cooling, your control will open from 2 to 3 and close from 1 to 2. Once it closes from 1 to 2, this will now complete the circuit to your damper motor and start your damper motor running. As soon as the damper motor starts to run, this bottom switch is going to open from the normal close terminal and close to the normal open terminal, starting the fan motor running off of the food compartment control. This switch will also change position immediately, the switch closest to the damper. As the motor gets fully closed and the damper is wide open, the second switch will close to the normal closed position, turning off the damper motor, so your fan motor will continue to run as long as your cold control is calling for cooling. Once your food compartment control is satisfied, it's going to open from between 2 and 1 and close between 2 and 3 again. This is going to start our damper motor running again. It's going to switch our damper fan control switch back to the freezer control, the motor is going to close the damper completely, and then the second switch will come on up here to the normal open position, shutting off your damper motor with your damper fully closed. If your freezer control is still calling for cooling, your fan motor would continue to run through the freezer control. The second thing that you've got to take notice is the neutral side of the fan motor is connected into the defrost heater circuit. So what we're trying to point out right here is your fan motor in your freezer will not start to run unless your termination thermostat on your defrost heater is closed. As long as the termination thermostat is open, you will lose the neutral wire coming into your fan motor. So you are controlling your fan motor off of the defrost limit thermostat as well as the motorized damper switch on your food compartment control. The timer system is just a standard 8-hour timer that you're used to from any product that we've been building in the past. When your freezer compartment control closes, it supplies power down to your timer motor, so your timer motor will only advance when the freezer control calls for cooling. After 8 hours of accumulated running time, of course, the timer will switch from the number 1 to number 4 up to number 1 to number 2, turning on the defrost heater. The heater will remain on until the limit thermostat opens up. Once the timer has timed out its 22 minutes and the contact switch from number 2 back down to number 4, your compressor will start to run immediately, but again, your fan motor is not going to start to run until the limit thermostat resets. The second control system that you're going to see on your side-by-side is your ADC control, or automatic defrost control. This by far is what you're going to see the most of in the field because we are converting everything to the ADC control. It will still have 2 cold controls on it, such as your timer model did, this one being your food compartment, this one being your freezer control. It will mount exactly the same way, but you will have an ADC board in place of your defrost timer. On your motorized damper control, of course, you're only going to have 2 switches instead of the 3 switches. You'll have 2 located at the top and nothing at the bottom. The other thing that you will see on these high-end models is an additional heater fastened to the cold control cap tube. This is a little 2-watt heater, and this is what creates the fast freeze and fast ice feature. The control board in the dispenser, when you set it for fast freeze, will turn this heater on continually for 16 hours to make the cold control cycle faster, giving you a colder freezer temperature. When you set it to fast ice, it will pulsate the heater so that it's on 50% of the time for 12 hours to again cause the freezer to run at a colder temperature, giving you faster ice production. The ADC control, as we'll cover in the wiring diagrams, does control the fan motor on a side-by-side. So your fan motor is controlled by your ADC control, not by a switch on your damper control. The automatic damper system on the models that have the ADC control operates exactly the same as it does on the timer. You simply change the contact in your control from 2 to 1. That'll start your damper motor running. Your 1 switch will change, and then your other switch will change. But the first thing you're going to notice is you do not have the 3rd switch controlling the fan motor. The line coming off of number 1 on the cold control comes down to the automatic defrost control. This will start your fan motor running through your ADC, and it'll continue to run as long as the food compartment control calls for cooling. It'll also run when your freezer control is calling for cooling. The big differences that you'll see also is your fan motor is not connected to the defrost terminator. The fan motor goes directly back to neutral. Big differences that you will find with your ADC control. The ADC control sets your defrost cycles based on the length of time the heater stays energized, but it also controls the coming back on of your compressor and your fan motor, so that when your terminator cuts off your heaters, you will have a 6-minute delay before your compressor will start. you will have an additional 1 minute for a total of 7-minute delays before your fan motor will restart. The ADC control also has the feature of being able to put it into a test mode by pushing in on the light switch 5 times in 6 seconds will put you into defrost. Also, pushing in on that light switch 5 times in 6 seconds will bring the ADC back out of the defrost cycle. When the ADC comes out of the defrost cycle manually, the compressor will start immediately, but you still have a 1-minute delay before your fan motor is going to restart. You can see on the wiring diagram here that you are connected to your defrost heater. This is so it knows how long, or as you're connected to your defrost heater here to operate your defrost heater, connected to your defrost thermostat so it knows how long the terminator thermostat remains closed, and of course you run your compressor through it. It's a single pole double throw relay controlling the compressor. It simply operates the same as your timer. It's through your cold control that the cold control will send the power into the ADC, and then the ADC will either send that power to the compressor or send that power to the defrost heater. You also have another wire coming down connecting to your food compartment light switch. This is for your vacation mode, as well as giving the servicer a way of putting this product into a automatic defrost cycle for testing purposes. Once your control is satisfied, like your timer system, you will open from number 1, close to number 3. This will start your damper motor running and close your damper and reconnect your fan motor back through your freezer control. So that's very similar to the timer system.